Hello, everyone. We are talking to Sarah from Folk Revival today, and she is, among many other things, a homesteader and has the most amazing kitchen.
Yeah, we
I
saw
have,
the reel, and
yeah,
I was showing it to him, and he was crying.
yeah. I have a thing with food, and that just the aliveness of your kitchen. It just resonates so much with me. Like this is what we have to bring back, like having that center of the home where like this is the center of all activities should be in any home, instead of having it like our energy dissipated all over the place. So I just love that you are showing that it's possible.
Thank you. Yeah. Oh, our kitchen is a work in progress. But thank you for having me. This is exciting. I love talking to like-minded people because it can be a lonely space, and creating that community isn't always in person, belly to belly. And so I love how technology brings us together.
Yeah,
So
definitely.
thank you for having me. I'm excited to talk to you about homesteading and kitchen and cooking. And I always say homesteaders are just like, they're the ultimate foodie, because we take our food to the next level. Like we're growing it, we're processing it, and you have to have a kitchen that is a lived-in kitchen.
Yeah.
And we live in an old farmhouse, so we knocked out a wall in order to make, because farmhouses in where we are in Pennsylvania or in the United States, they always have like two doors. And what my husband says, it had to do with funerals, that you would go in one door and then out the other door.
Okay.
And it's always like two rooms, and it's weird. Is it a living room? Is it a dining room? So we did a lot of like just knocking out walls. It's still not complete, but we're making it work for us. And it has to be a working kitchen. I see these beautiful kitchens, and I'm not knocking them. I see these beautiful kitchens on Pinterest and Instagram, but are they lived in? Like my kitchen's a mess all the time, but I like tidiness. I like things cleaned up at the end of the night so I can wake up on like a fresh start. But I have a plant hook that's a cheese hook, I'm hanging my cheese there. Just like I have crocks for fermenting. I have like old wooden spoons, like things that work for me. And I know like everyone's kitchen is going to be different, according to what they cook and what they produce. And we actually had an all-in-one fridge that we splurged on. We bought it new. Like everything we buy is secondhand pretty much. Purchased it new, and it died in like 8 years, maybe even less. And it would have cost more to fix it it would have cost the same price to fix it as if we were to buy a new one. And we're like, well, this is ridiculous. We always wanted to put a walk-in cooler. So we got rid of our fridge and put a walk-in cooler in our basement. And it was the coolest thing ever, because now with all the milk and all the produce on the farm, like we can just store everything down there. But we have to be really mindful of cleaning it too, because it can get shoved in the corners. But like that's like our motto is like, if we can't buy it the way we want it, we're just gonna build it, and we're gonna make it our own and have fun in the process.
How did you get, like you said, you've been doing it for about 14 years, is that right?
Mm-hmm.
How did you get started?
Yeah. So when my husband and I got married, he came from a farming background. His grandfather was an organic farmer. Mm-hmm. And that was in the 70s. He started in the 70s, and then my husband was born in the 80s. But my husband was driving tractor at the age of 5, helping grandpa on the farm. And
that's awesome.
Like it was just always in his blood, and some of his uncles, some of his family farm. But no one wanted the family farm when his grandpa passed. And then a family member purchased it. They farm it, not organically. And it actually came for rent. So we lived there for the first 5 years, and we just dove in like little kids. We watched Food Inc. I don't know if you've ever seen the documentary, like one of the first documentaries. So I always say it's so cliche. We watched it and we're like, yeah, we're doing this. And we put in this huge garden. We got chickens, and we put pigs on one of his friends' properties. And we put the pigs on his parents' property, and a steer on his parents' property. And we have the skull hanging in our living room, like the horns and stuff, like just as a reminder, like this is where we started. And we did it for fun. And I remember like the first year planting potatoes, like and I was pregnant too. Like we had started a family right away too, but like planting potatoes and having mud fights. Our garden was so weedy that we had to mow down the beets to actually get to them because we had no clue. I mean, we had a clue what we were doing, but we were like little kids and we were just having fun doing this.
Yeah.
And everything we grew and produced and it was on our plate, we're like, wow, our hands, we raised this, we did this. What else can we do? What else? You know, and that's just kind of our question over and over. And what can we do now? What can we do now? And after 5 years, we found 3.5 acres, not too far away, a little farmhouse, a barn, and it was perfect. And it has a well on it too, a hand dug well.
Ooh.
My husband made mention maybe 5 years ago, we've been living here for about 8. And he said, Sarah, if anything were to happen, we have everything we need on this farm. We can grow our own food. We have a hand dug well that's going to give us water. We can take care of our family members if anything were to happen. I'm like, yeah. And then 2020 hit. You totally jinxed it. Like, oh my God.
Well, maybe something was speaking through him.
Exactly. Yeah. So I was like, well, now it's kind of like out of necessity. And I don't like that feeling. I want to go back to like having fun and doing this for fun and not feeling like, oh my word, we have to store up all this food and we have to get a milk cow. And, you know, I feel like it's lost its magicalness. And now I see, which I love, I see everyone else jumping into the homestead movement. But with that, it's not like an overnight thing. It is such layers.
Yeah.
It's also, it's like dying to self, like you're like kind of what we were saying, like I'm in this mourning phase of, you know, we went to a coffee shop today. I was like, I have an espresso maker. We can bake really good food. Like we have everything we need here. So we've really pulled ourselves out of the system is what we did. And I love it, but I also miss it. So I'm stuck here in the middle of that. And I think as new homesteaders, I'm going to give new homesteaders advice. Be prepared for that.
Yeah.
You know, be prepared for, gosh, is there even a word for it? This is so new in my head. And like, I guess maybe the loneliness.
Yeah.
And with that, you know, when you're pulling yourself out of the system and you're pulling your family out of the system, because we're 2 years into homeschooling as well. So we're really like, my kids were asking for it. They wanted to homeschool. And I was like, all right, Lord, I hear you loud and clear. You know, when everything shut down, I'm like, they're asking for it. It's the time. But you're going to lose friends along the way, but you're going to gain amazing friends.
Yeah.
You know, you may lose your close in-person friends, but you're going to gain friends that maybe are in other states or other countries. You know, I've gained beautiful friends with people from other countries, people in other states, and be bold and be okay with inviting people in, having people at your house, strangers. You're starting to build your own, like a new friendship, new community. And I don't think we can ever be self-sustainable. We have to be community sustainable. We have to build strong communities again.
Yeah.
But you're also doing that through your social media profiles. Like you're both making the connections and letting people into your quite private sphere, you know. It's like, because you're taking them into the center of your home and you're showing them, like with the cooking and the kits and everything, and to people you have no idea who is. So it's quite naked somehow, you know. It's very, very brave.
It's very authentic, and that's what we need. And with that, you're creating that magic that you talked about before, because now all I can think about is moving to the US and be a homesteader. That's all. That's what I want, and I didn't want that before. Now I want it.
Like we come from a completely different background. Like we come from a country that's probably one of the most systematized, socialized, what do you call it, like intrusive countries in the world. Like they've got a tap on everything here. And I'm not just like being a crazy conspiracy theorist, apart from that I am a crazy conspiracy theorist. But like
I have a funny story about that.
We are being tracked, and they're like, we already have the digital IDs. Like we're changing into where anybody, any private company can go in and shut down your account. That's not like your bank account, sort of like what happened in Canada with the truckers.
Yeah.
So, but we're coming from this background where like we're in the system and we trust the system, and if something goes wrong, the system is supposed to take care of you. Turns out they don't.
No.
And then seeing that whole other thing, like where in the US where you have this independence but also an interdependence, because like everybody knows that you cannot really trust the system if something goes wrong, so you have to have connections like you're having. And it's extremely beautiful.
We've been talking about that with our daughter, because here in Denmark we're told that the system will catch us.
If you fall, there's a social security net, it's called.
And it didn't. And we were deeply traumatized by the system for 10 years. And you said, if only we were living in the US, then we would know that nobody would catch us. The system wouldn't catch us.
And everybody else would know that too. So
we had to take care of ourselves, and we would be in a community where people would help each other, and we don't have that in Denmark. And I was thinking about something else, that the generation before us, our parents and their parents, they were farmers. It's a big farming country, Denmark, and it just got lost like that.
So the rest of the world are very, very lucky to have the US that still has this independence mindset.
That you can take care of yourself.
And those of you that have done what you and your husband are doing, like you are carrying that torch that almost got lost, to light up the rest of the world and
carry it on.
There is a loss of that innocent joy, but that's because you're stepping from it being a childhood plaything into you're the adults now. You have to show and teach the rest of us and be there. And it's not always fun being the grown-ups. But we need grown-ups. Like we need a world of grown-ups instead of children that want to be taken care of.
And told what to do.
And I fully accept that. Thank you. Because that gives me a new perspective as we trudge on and we fight this fight, because it really is. And the other night, I feel like you're right. We are now being adults. We're moving into that. We're making choices for our children and our children's generation. And we're changing that through, I could cry. We're changing that through our children. I went to the library today. My daughters are picking out How to Raise Beef Cattle books, and they're 13, 10, and my youngest, she's still picking out like just the fantasy books, and that's fine too. She's still a child, and I want my children to have I want them to have a beautiful childhood. But how to raise beef cattle at the age of 13, and like what else? All these farming books, how to raise goats, and I'm like, okay, like that's what they're reading, and now they give me a hassle if I buy any like chicken at the store. They won't eat it. They're like, Mom, how was that raised? Like they question me. And they question government, they question all the things because they don't quite understand. And I'm like, you know what? I don't quite understand either, but this is just the way that we're living our life. And we have those conversations, but everything is an open conversation in our home. And going back to your conspiracy theory, I'm rolling this idea around in my head. So there has been in our little county, there's these free grapes, and they're from Chile. I guess, I don't know where they're coming from, but there's skids and there's tractor trailer loads of these free grapes. I was like, what? Yeah. And this kind of happened through COVID too, when all the turkey houses and the chicken houses, they couldn't process the meat. So they shut down. How did that happen? They shut down the processing. So they were selling chicken really, really cheap, truckloads of chicken.
Yeah.
And now it's grapes. I'm like, what? Grapes from Chile. And I wasn't going to get any, but my mom was like, hey, I'll pick up a few skids for you, or a few like flats. And I was like, I don't really want to eat them, but we just got pigs. I was like, sure, I'll give them to the pigs.
Yeah.
And then my girls are eating them and I'm going, what did they put on them? Are they poisoning us? What are they doing? Why are they free? Like all the conspiracy theories. And I'm like, don't eat them. If they kill anything, they'll kill our pigs. Like, let's experiment on the pigs. Yeah. But yeah, all the questions I question, and we can go crazy down this rabbit hole of, thinking about what are they doing to us? And our mind can play tricks on us. We just have to focus, right? We have to focus. But I think, our pioneer spirit, like we were saying, like so many people are flocking to homesteading and buying land. And I love it. I absolutely love it, because that is right there, the pioneer spirit of like, if we can't change it, we can change our family. We can change the way we're living. And people are seeing that they can't change the system. They can't change what's happening. But they can change their family dynamics, the way they live, what they turn off, what they turn on, what they watch, what they listen to, the people that they're surrounded by. And that's our goal here. When we first viewed this farm, it wasn't like butterflies and like rainbows and like, this is it. It was kind of this quiet peace inside of us. Like, I think this is it. And we've looked at so many farms, and I saw the barn. And ever since we started homesteading, all I craved was community. I craved like canning peaches with a bunch of women, picking beans and talking about like how to process food and the good old days, and bringing back those stories. Because you're right, Katrine, it could happen in an instant. It could happen overnight that we lose that generational knowledge. But there was no one doing that except like Mennonite and Amish, and I didn't really have Mennonite and Amish friends. So all my friends were looking at me like, what are you doing? What are you guys doing now? And so I always wanted to have a place to teach people. And I saw the barn as like, wow, we can host canning classes. And now this was 8-9 years ago. I have to think about my middle child. Yeah, it was 9 years ago. And so our big audacious goal is to renovate that. But when you have such a big audacious dream, it can be so big. You have to take little tiny steps. So I'm in my garage right now, and this is what we renovated. And I teach classes. And before 2020, it was kind of a fun thing. It was like a women's, like, oh, the women, like a women's day out, oh, let's go take a class and learn how to, make fermented green beans. And it wasn't a necessity, like a skill that they wanted to learn. But now my classes are mostly sold out or close to sold out, because people want to learn how to can, they want to learn how to make cheese, they want to learn how to ferment, because those are lost skills. Mm-hmm. You can learn them online. You can learn, there's so many different platforms popping up now and online classes. And you can learn them online. But there's nothing like coming together belly to belly. No. Asking the instructor and building friendships. People in your community, and building that community of people. So I feel like I don't necessarily want to build a community just for me. I want to build a community of people that hey, they become friends, and then they go together, have coffee together, or they get together and their kids play together. And these are people that we can network with. I didn't do well at raising turkeys this year, but I know a friend that she raises turkeys, so I'm going to order from her. Who can we call for hay this year for our animals? Who can we call for, wood for our wood stove? Making all those connections. And there's nothing that compares to any course you can buy online, because again, that's still isolation, right?
Yeah.
Not saying that they're bad, but someone just asked me on social media where we learned to butcher chickens. was it just like, was it through a course or was it just winging it? And I was like, totally winging it. We watched it. Winging it. Never even thought about. We watched a few YouTube videos. My husband, he's a taxidermist and a hunter, so he he's like, jack of all trades. He was in construction, so I feel bad for the guy because anytime I will pull something up on Pinterest, I'm like, can you build this for me? Can you do this? Can you do that? He's like, stop showing me that screen. He's like, stop showing me that screen. In fact, he has a flip phone. He doesn't even have a smartphone. He listens to podcasts on my old phone at work because he usually is sewing up animals. You know, that's what he does.
That's his profession?
Yeah, but it's so cool because we were just there today and the taxidermist, the company he works for is incredible. And his boss throughout this whole thing, he's a freedom fighter too. Never wore masks, he did work from home for a few months, but not very long. His boss is amazing, but it's out of country, like all these exotic animals that they're doing. So we were in the shop today to say hi to him and the coolest animals. So it's not just like North American animals, it's like Africa, Asia, like all these crazy things that you would never see here. So
well, it's needed because like we were in a museum of natural history when we lived in Shanghai, and the animals there, they're like, like it just looked so weird.
Oh yeah, it's definitely an art.
Skilled people out there to do that.
Yeah. You look at the 1970s and 80s taxidermy, and you're like, whoa, that needs to be redone. That's scary looking. Yeah, but going back to what I was saying, like the woman asked me if we learned through a course, and I was like, no. I mean, we watched a few YouTube videos, but you got to dive in. Like, don't pay for a course in chicken butchering. Don't pay for it. Go to YouTube. You know, and then take a personal in-person class.
Yeah.
Like you have to dive in, and these are skills you have to just like have hands on.
Yeah, but that's how it is with most of those things, that like gardening and felling trees and stuff, like you can't just read it. And our whole society is now geared to like, it's all book knowledge, but it's not like real knowledge.
Yeah.
I
mean, there's nothing wrong with reading. I mean, we learned a lot through reading, but to get the book knowledge or to watch some videos, but then it takes a whole new skill level to actually dive in and do it and make a few mistakes along the way and learn. That's the real education. Is when you're actually doing it and making mistakes. And we've made so many mistakes, and that's just how we learn. You know, you lose animals, you butcher a chicken wrong, and you cut the intestines like that. You lose animals that way.
So how has it been for you these last 2 years? Like we're talking about losing friends, but you've already been down this path for a good many years of like going your own way. So what has changed for you the last 2 years?
I think maybe just stronger in our conviction of why we're homesteading. Being more mindful of where we're spending our money too. You know, my sister just asked, she's like, hey, do you want to split a vacation house this summer on a lake? And I was like, oh my word, that's where the mourning comes in, you know, like I would really love to. But with this hyperinflation, looking at the future, yeah, sure, we could put it on the credit card, but I would much rather be mindful with where we're spending our money in like animals. So, you know, what's going to give us a return on investment? You know, some people are investing in silver. Some people are investing in Bitcoin. We're investing in food and more animals, more gardens, because people have to eat, right?
Mm.
So just again, like that dying to self and saying no to some of those luxuries that we had at our fingertips pre-COVID. Where we didn't even have to blink an eye, be like, yeah, sure, we'll go, we'll split a house. So that, I think with friendships, I think we've strengthened the ones that we like, that inner circle, right? Because I do struggle, I think, a little bit with that, because when you're on social media, your circle becomes so big. And I'm an introverted extrovert, where like I need my personal space, but I also feel like I want to make other people feel special. I want to communicate with everyone, but we weren't created to have that big of a sphere of a friendship. Yes, acquaintances, but true friendships. And so I feel like we've really strengthened our friendships with the people that we love the most, that we value each other's opinions, even though they're different. And we have some friends that their opinions are very different, but we love each other more than our views, right? And so that, and family too, just strengthening some family relationships as well. And just really seeing the importance of people, family and friends, while being that light and hopefully that influence. And, I think my heart hurts for people that are just like not understanding or not forecasting the future. I'm not going crazy with this whole food shortage, because if you look out, there's food everywhere. There is. It's going to be a shift of, oh, I'm not going to have my crackers that I love, or my chips that I have to have, or the ice cream, or, it's going to be, there's food everywhere. When you're hungry.
Yeah.
I'm like that groundhog. I don't know what you guys call them, but they're like rodents around here. That squirrel looks pretty good. And think about like our ancestors. I think about my dad and my grandpa growing up. They would hunt small animals, and there would be rabbit or squirrel in my fridge, and my mom would cook that for my dad. And I'd be like, no way. But I think a little house is scary, Paul would go out and shoot rabbit, and they would have rabbit stew. So I'm not worried about a food shortage per se for our family, our close friends, but those that maybe don't have the skills or aren't willing to change their taste buds.
Yeah. Or if you're living in a big city, that might be challenging.
Yeah. Or knowing farmers.
Yeah.
Their education's not there, and they don't know how to connect. And that's where I want to just be like, go to Weston A. Price. Are you familiar with Weston A. Price?
Yeah.
But there's chapter leaders, and it's worldwide, a lot more in the United States, but it is worldwide, where you can connect with a person and they'll say, here's a farmer, here's some natural therapists, chiropractors, and they'll hook you up with people.
Yeah.
And so I think that's just where that connection comes in.
Yeah.
And again, it's a journey, like you were saying, with your daughter and going down the medical route of things. We started 14 years ago, and it wasn't until our third daughter, she had some medical issues, like digestive. We weren't getting answers. We were going to like one of the best hospitals around us. Studies, they were checking her digestive system, couldn't find anything. And it wasn't until my lactation consultant said she's sensitive to milk, and that's why her intestines are forming polyps, and she's bleeding when she goes to the bathroom. And I was like, my doctor, my really good expert doctor, couldn't tell me that. My lactation consultant told me that. Yeah. And that set us on a path of, I don't want to put Band-Aids on this. I want to heal her gut. I want to heal her. And I know there's a way. And so paying out of pocket, that was another, it's these layers by layers by layers. It's a whole lifestyle. It's not just homesteading. So, I would go to the doctor when she would get sick with a respiratory issue. Well, then they'd give us antibiotics. Well, with the digestive issues, when you have a leaky gut, antibiotic, it was two things that were colliding that weren't working in her body. And so I was like, all right, then I'd go down to it was a nutrition response, NRT, we call it here. So working with frequency and your body's electricity system. and I'd pay out of pocket. So I'd run to the doctor. Then, you know, I had to get to this stage where I could trust that I could skip the doctor and go right to, you know, our holistic doctor. And it was just layer by layer. And so now why we're doing this, and it was her quote the other night, I put their taste buds to the test. I was like, it's the first week of summer. I'm going to go back old school. We're going to eat peanut butter, and not judging anyone. If you eat peanut butter and jelly and macaroni and cheese from a box, that's fine. I did. I fed my kids all the organic junk food, right? Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Thinking I was doing better. And there's nothing wrong with that. We have that. There's a time and a place for that. You know, if we're traveling or something, like, we'll eat that stuff. Or if I just need a quick lunch. But I normally just home cook now, what we have. And so I was like, I got macaroni and cheese in a box, the organic stuff. I got, you know, some organic white bread. And I was like, let's do this. Let's put your taste buds to the test. And so every day we had something different. And they're like, nope, we like your home cooking better. Nope. And then Sawyer, my youngest, she was sitting eating soup the one night for dinner, and she just said it. She's like, oh, Mom, and she's 8. This warms me from the top of my head to the tip of my toes. It's so good. And like, that just warmed my heart. Like, for her to say that and realize that just, it filled her up, not just her belly, but her soul. And food.
Yeah.
Food should do that. It is healing. You know, it's not something we scarf down. It is nourishing from the top of our head to the tip of our toes. And our kids.
I love that. Like, when I get something, I'm food makes me cry. Like, if it really touches me, I will start crying. Well, she says I cry too much anyway. But I had one of these experiences. Like, a friend had an intern from France over, and her granddad had sent her like a can of his own rabbit pate. Like, he shot the rabbit, he did the pate and canned it and sent it, and you could just taste the Alps. You could, like, everything that rabbit had, that it had a good life, the love her granddad had put into that to send to her.
Oh, yes. That's what I'm talking about. Okay, so I've come to this realization, like, why is our food system so warped, right? When food should be just like that, right? You feel the love.
Yeah.
You taste it. It's like something that nourishes your body and soul. And I go back to, like, why, and just everything that's going on. And I'm like, okay, well, there's good and there's evil in the world, right? There's good and evil, and they fight. And that's from the beginning of time, you know? And so we'll just call it, like, there's God, there's Satan, right? And I'm like, Satan is obviously, he wants to destroy everything that is good. And food was meant for good, right? God created food for good. It was to nourish us. It was for our pleasure, for us to enjoy. Like, you cry when you eat good food. We have community around food. My husband, he like dances in his chair when he eats something good. And my husband at it all the time. She's like, he's always like dancing when something's good. And always like, this is good. And talking to himself. But like, that's what it was meant for good.
Yeah.
But like, so when I look at food and I see it so warped and the system so warped, I'm like, that's just evil. That's just Satan. Like, break it down, simple as possible. Why are we in this predicament that we're in? You know,
we've taken spirit out of it, like that. We separated the physical and the spiritual.
Yeah,
that's like the whole Rene Descartes thing, like that let the church have the spiritual and then the physical to the scientists, you know. And it's all coming back now, that you cannot separate the two things. So when you do it like that, then you can make crappy food, and you can make bad coffee and all these things. Like, you can you can shout at your cell phone and throw it into the ground because it's just a dead thing. It's like everything is imbued with spirit, everything, and we need to treat everything right, including ourselves and our neighbors and our kids and our food. Like, we have to bring God and spirit back into everything and be like the whole giving thanks. Like, nobody says grace anymore, but it's coming back. Like, we're saying grace now every day.
We visited a Polish family, a Catholic family in Poland, and they did that every time there was food or drink. And it was so nice.
We even, I mean, anytime we butcher animals on our farm too, we gather around as a family and we say, you know, a thanks for the life that they gave us, and we pray over them, because that is, there is that essence of, you know, it's going to nourish us, and we got to give thank you back to the Creator that allowed us to raise those animals and give life to them, and then they're going to give life to us. You know, it's just it's a whole circle, you know, and you can't separate it.
And if you see that God is in that pig or that cow, you cannot treat it the way it's being done, like it's being raised in the regular system where they're fucking torturing animals.
I know.
Animal Auschwitz.
I mean, it's insane. And then people will eat animals that died in horrible, fearful conditions, putting those fear hormones into themselves, apart from there's not being any nourishment in it, really.
You get that. That's awesome. I love that you get that, because we just hired a butcher. He's the only guy in our county. Actually, I don't even know if I know of any others that do this, but he does on-farm butchering. Slaughtering. So he'll come out and kill the animal. And
that's been outlawed here.
Really?
Yeah, you cannot even do that anymore.
That's crazy.
Sorry to interrupt.
No, that's okay. I mean, I think that's because you're taking that animal's life in its most comfortable, you know, surroundings. It's doing its normal pigness and eating, you know, whatever slop, and then the next thing it's hanging in the trailer, you know. I mean, there's no high cortisol, there's no fear hormones, none of that that you're consuming then. So I love that you get that.
But it's the whole thing, like the whole thing circulating around what you're doing and what we're trying to do, and all these other people is taking the power and the responsibility back for our own lives, but also for the lives around us, that we take care and we give thanks, that we treat each other and the lives around us with love and respect, and we don't delegate our responsibility and everything else to powers outside of us, that we take everything back. We have to now. We have to return to ourselves.
Go ahead.
The other day I went to a local festival in my hometown, and there was we have a museum there where they have old stuff from the 30s, 40s, 50s, and 60s maybe. That's the and old people are working there voluntarily, and they're dressing up in the uniforms, and now they're driving this bus. And they had this bus on the festival and showing it off, and it was a red bus, and we could go inside, and the interior was just beautiful. It was mostly handmade, everything, and it was from a time where we didn't rush, so maybe it drove slowly, and it was just perfect. So nobody was wearing seat belts, but they didn't need to, because everything was just so slow. And I got to think about one of my big dreams is to make like a prison /
monastery
where people come in who had done something bad, and then they are treated really nicely. They're treated like a whole person. So we will make them whole again, and they will learn the old crafts and hvad hedder det, sneaker, like carpentry, and how to make furnitures and mugs, ceramics and stuff. Because when you are making it with your hands and other people are buying what you are making, there's the vandalism will stop. Right now, young people, they're bored, they have no purpose in life. And they're just doing a lot of vandalism. They're throwing rocks in trains or spray painting it, and because it doesn't matter, it's just lifeless stuff.
And they have nothing to fill their souls.
Yeah, and no one made that. It's soulless. But if someone was making that train, if they were a part of it, trying to hand make, I don't know, the interior of a train, they wouldn't throw rocks at it or spray paint it, because it would have a story and soul. So that's one of my dreams. When I become a really old lady, I will make a place like that, and have so they will learn the crafts, and when new people will come in, they will be is it called the master, and they will have students.
Master and apprentice.
Apprentices.
I love it. Keep that dream alive and lean into it. A friend of mine, she created with another person here, just in a couple states above us. They have, it's called Dreamers Ranch, but they take children from the inner city and they have them work on the farm, but they're learning a skill, and those children have a purpose, and they're learning about animal husbandry, how to grow their own food. And I think it's the most beautiful ministry, because you're giving those children who would not necessarily have a purpose, coming from, inner city and coming onto the farm and learning. And I think children need to have purpose. They need to tap into their skills, and they're given skills. And I think that's the most, I don't know about you with homeschooling or unschooling, right? I feel like we're a little bit of unschooling. We have all kinds of modalities, but really leaning into your children and seeing their gifts and what lights them up, and leaning into that. And I guess I do feel like for the people that have never had that, have never experienced someone pulling out their gifts and saying, hey, you are so amazing at your use with plants, or you're really good with animals, you're so calm around them and they're calm around you, having people pull out and tell you exactly what you are good at. And maybe we need to do more of that just every day, right?
Our son, he's really good with cats. We brought our cat
in our RV
in through 10 countries. Little did you know. So when we were living in Tuscany, his responsibility was to feed the cats at that place. So he had a purpose. So he didn't do much, but he took care of the cats, because he's really good with animals.
Yeah. Amazing. So
and
you lived in Tuscany.
Yeah, we lived in Tuscany for 6 months.
Okay.
And God gave us a house. Also, an old guy gave us a house for 6 months.
So we worked for this old guy.
Yeah, so we could do this whole summer thing and get all this stuff up. But that's like what you're saying, as opposed to only being valued for your book smarts. And if you don't achieve that level that is required by the system, then you're deemed stupid or not good enough and having no value.
Yeah, I was an elementary teacher in public school for 9 years, and I just couldn't get past, like, I had children and I was in inner city, and so poverty level, it was just my eyes were awakened because I was a little country girl that then went to the city to teach. And I had little kindergartners cursing at me. And I'm like, what? but they're gifts, and they had to reach a benchmark. They had to, they had to read by a certain age. And if they didn't read this many words, and they were put, they were labeled. If they couldn't sit in their chair, they were labeled.
Yeah.
And that's a whole nother topic. And that's why I pulled my children out of public school, because not all my children learn the same. So,
yeah.
So where do you see the world is moving right now? So do you see it moving in a certain direction do you want that direction, or do you want some other direction, or do you see both directions actually? Because I do.
Yeah. When we had did they deem it a recession yet? Did they label it a recession here in the US yet? I don't know. I mean, we're obviously heading there, but we had that in 2008, and that's when we were first married and young and in love. And I'm like, I don't even remember. We got through there, and I had no clue that the world was the way it was, or at least our country. But now my eyes are opened, a little bit more adultish, I guess. And I see that it's going to be a rough couple of years. Are we ever going to go back to the way it was? That's where maybe we're in this mourning. I know. We're in this mourning of letting go of what we had, what we could do, what we knew as, we were prospering. Like, things were really good pre-2020. At least I thought it was in my own little world here. I don't know if it's ever going to go back. It's just going to be new. We're going to have a couple of years that we're going to really have to be mindful with where we're spending our money, what we're saying yes to. Is it going to get good again? I'm hopeful. I'm hopeful that, we're all going to be prospering again. And, but we can also make that, we can create that life that we want. Yeah. Right. So that's what, I see it two ways. I see it two ways. And I'm creating my own little haven here on our homestead. And I don't want to shelter ourselves, but in a way I do. Yes and no. Definitely want to shelter my children and let them live a magical childhood. And not have to talk about finances with them, not have to talk, say yes and no or no to them. But I know there's going to be some times where we're just going to have to, I don't know, be more mindful, I guess.
Yeah.
Of what we do.
But also, like, when you're talking about prospering, like, if we look at what we were prospering, well, maybe not us, but people who are prospering financially and material goods wise, very few people were prospering spiritually. They, like, most people, when I look around, I see most people living in abject poverty. Like, you have a kitchen that is alive. And we had, like, I don't know if the wave has passed, but there was this huge thing in Denmark about, like, people were remodeling their kitchen. So they had this little kitchen island where, like, all this, and they're spending tons of money. But both parents are working from 9 to 5, and the children are not at home. They're putting the children in institutions, which is a good word for it, for the whole day, where they have the most energy, the most aliveness. Both, like, parents and children come home completely worn out, no time or energy for each other. And here in Denmark, like, most people are better off holiday wise than in the US. We have 5.5 weeks of holiday a year, which sounds insane to an American, but that's less than 10% of the year you have to spend with your family. I mean, that's not prospering to me.
No. And when I say prosper, I know I have to think about that. Prosper for us, because we're prospering financially is we're always living on a shoestring. We're always, well, our phrase is robbing Peter to pay Paul. Like, if we can just get by here, but it's never, when I think prosper, I'm thinking moving ahead, like one step closer to self-sufficiency. Everything we've done here remodel wise is we've done with scrap material that we've been gifted or given, used items. So never that luxurious, because I think for us prospering is having me in the home with my children. Because I worked, my husband worked, and I was taking my oldest to childcare, dropping her off, and I wouldn't get home until late. And I still had schoolwork to do. That wasn't prospering to me. I feel like prospering, I guess it'll be a revival of people's mindsets of what wealth looks like.
Yeah.
Wealth isn't going to be money. Wealth is going to have your health. It's going to have food on your table. It's going to have people around you. It's going to having skills to draw from. That's going to be prospering in the future. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I like the future.
Yeah. And I see that wave. So I see that it's hopeful. And I see there is a spiritual awakening. There is a revival there too, because people don't have hope, and they need hope. They need something to believe in. And that's how God created us. He created us with belief, right? Because, oh my word, if God was so small for us to understand, he wouldn't be worth worshiping, right? Like he's asking me questions sometimes, and I'm like, I don't know, but you can ask him when you get to heaven. Like, I don't know the answers. I don't know the why. So for me, my hope is in Jesus. I mean, everyone has a different, spiritual belief, but I feel like we are going to have that spiritual awakening, because people need hope, right? And so I think that's also wealth too. Having your hope.
Yeah.
For me, that's in Jesus. And that gives me ultimate peace. And like I said, it's so simple. It is like, why are people the way they are? Why is our food system so messed up? Why is farming, as I feel like we're just destroying the land. And I'm like, okay, it goes back to the beginning, the garden. There is God and there's Satan. And and they've been battling since the beginning of time. And it's a spiritual warfare.
Yeah.
It's just plain and simple. I mean, I think a child could understand that, but we in our adult minds, we try to ask, and we figure it out. But so I have peace about the future. I really do.
Good.
Because I know he has us. I know he has us. And when you have that belief, it's ultimate peace, and things work out. It's just crazy how when you watch him move, it works out. Just like you said, like you're traveling in an RV and things are just working out. You have that belief.
But again, that's when you take spirituality or God or whatever you call it out of the picture, and you think you're alone, and you think you have to do everything by yourself, like you have to move and change the world by yourself. So we have all this control. We've learned that we have to have control over things. Mm-hmm. So there's so much fear in just letting go. Yeah. And when we've had to let go because we had no choice anymore.
Yeah.
And I
and
still get fearful.
Yeah.
But when I let go, I get caught.
It got really clear when we got back to Denmark and saw some of our families, and they were like, so now you're getting back, and now you get to like pull yourself together and get a real job, and the kids back in school, and you have to figure it out, you have to do this. And it's like, no, I can't. I really tried. We tried for many years to
fit into the system,
fit in and figure it out and pull ourselves together, and we can't, because there's something much bigger than us deciding what is happening.
And because the system is not created by God, it's created by
so now we're letting go, and it's scary. It's really scary, but we just have to let go and just go with that river and see where it takes us. And I know that we're going to be caught down the river, and it's going to be awesome.
Yeah.
And I think of it this way, God created the whole world for us. And it's like a playground for us. Why wouldn't he want us to enjoy it instead of being trapped in this 9-to-5 job, trapped in this system, under control? I had family that thought the same way, because I was a teacher and I resigned, and I never went back. And they're like, you went to college? You went 6 years of college and you're not going back to teaching? Why wouldn't you do that? I'm like, I don't want to, there's more. So I've been using this oil. I use essential oils. And this oil is called Surrender. And I'm like, I need this. I use it every day because I'm like, I just need to surrender it. I don't have control. And the more you like close grip, it becomes, you get anxious and fearful inside.
Yeah.
Who wants to live like that? And I just have to surrender. So surrender, have fun, have joy, have sparkle in your eyes, and just live this one life the best that you can. And I'm questioning myself right there, because with this homestead life, this is where I'm grappling too. Am I truly free? We are creating this work, like we bucked the system. As we've often talked about, getting our names out of all caps, the whole Social Security and being a free woman and a free man. And my husband's like, don't go there, Sarah, don't do it. He's like, don't even look into it. I'm like, but I don't know. He's like, it's just really deep. And I was like, okay. But I just question it, like knowing that it's there.
Yeah.
We're living as free as possible, but yet now we got a dairy cow.
Yeah.
Now I'm going to have to rely on someone to take care of that dairy cow if I want to go anywhere. So are we trapping ourselves into a life that is free, but not free?
That's where the community comes in. You need to be in a community to take shifts on the animals.
But that whole thing with the all caps and the straw man, I mean, that rabbit hole is deep.
I think that is why we're so many, because some other people are taking care of that.
We know
That's
people.
not us.
We know people who work with that, and that rabbit hole. We've been somewhat down the tunnels, and that Warren, like, no, there's some other people
really
who need to take care of that.
You need to know what you're doing.
Yeah, you get in trouble if you don't cross all T's and dot all I's. That is.
Yeah, that's what my husband said. He's like, you don't want to go down that hole. And I have a friend, he's a chiropractor, that he's teaching on it. He stopped for a little while because he had some bouts with his health. And my husband's like, there's a lot to it. But he's driving without a driver's license right now. He never renewed it. And I'm like, you're doing this on purpose. You're doing this on purpose so that you can get pulled over and you can talk to that officer and ask him all the questions and tell him why you don't have I'm just going to let him.
Has he taken off his license plates as well? No,
he has not done that. He pushes.
Because if he really wants to get pulled over, that's a good way to go.
I know. He's not there yet, but he does always. He doesn't like to follow rules, and he questions, and he just does his own thing. And I'm always like, oh my word.
Yeah.
But
so he's one of the guys who are doing that. And just let him do that, and you do something else.
Yeah, you cook. You,
You
cook for God.
There you go. Oh, you guys are great.
You too.
You
We
too.
could talk forever,
Yeah.
but we better cut this off before our daughter explodes. I can hear her outside.
Okay.
She needs to go to the beach. We're parked like 300 yards from the beach.
Oh, so fun.
Yeah.
Is it warm there where you guys are?
No, it's Denmark.
It's Denmark. It's Danish weather. It's not
cloudy and wet and
cold
and
all year
windy.
round.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah. So maybe Texas sounds good.
Texas or Florida. Yep. Maybe I'll see you in the States one of these days.
I have a very strong feeling there's a very good chance of that.
Yeah.
We have a lot of people we have to see or want to see.
Yeah.
Part of me does want to, I don't know. I'm a person that always has an ulterior, like an alternative plan. And I was like, well, we could just sell everything and travel around the United States in an RV. Like you guys are doing it. Like you did it.
Yeah, we did.
You did it.
That's crazy.
Like, part of me wants to go see all my new friends that I've made all over the country and see places and connect. I don't know. That's where I'm also mourning some. Do we lose our travel ability? I don't know, but yeah.
Well,
Maybe.
have somebody house sit your home for like some time during the winter season where there's not as many chores, and then you can go do that.
Yeah.
There are people wanting to house at a place like yours.
Okay, I'll keep you on my I'm constantly making like this mental note of who could stay here, who knows how to take care of animals, who knows how to run a wood stove, because we heat our home with wood.
Yeah.
And strictly that's it. And I'm like, okay, all these people in my mind. So I need to just make a
list. Thank you so much
Sarah.
for everything, Sarah.
Yeah.
It was wonderful talking to you, and we are just really happy that you're keeping that torch lit so we can light all the hearts around the world and keep the traditions alive. It's
passing the torch.
Yeah. More
people, you're holding your candle and people are coming with their candles and lighting it, and so more will spread. We have more light in the world. Thank you.
Yeah, and just by you being there and doing what you're doing, I mean, you're creating more resilience in this world. So thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you. I receive that, and blessings to you guys as you travel and as you are paving the way with truth as well on your podcast. Thank you for being a light as well. We just need
Thank you so
more light keepers. Yep.
Yes.
All right.
We are.
Thank you so much.
Take care.
Bye.
Bye.